Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're excited you're all here for another episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Jordan. Joining me today is my coworker, Sajwa.
Hi, everybody.
So normally a Cooking Matters class is an in-person nutrition-based cooking class that meets once a week for 2 hours for 6 weeks. Classes feature a nutrition educator and a chef that work together to teach participants a little bit about nutrition and then make a healthy, delicious, affordable meal together. Today, we're going to follow that same format, except virtually. I will be our nutrition educator and Sajwa will be our chef. So just like every week, we do have another survey for you all to take, and we love hearing from our viewers. So we ask if you have some time after this live stream, please go ahead and take our survey. It should be posted in the description box of our videos, so go ahead and check that out. For this survey, you will need a program code, which I have right here. Let's see, there we go. This week's program code is E101148. That is for this week's episode of Cooking Connected, the Banana Crumble. So we thank you in advance for that feedback. We really appreciate it, and it helps us to continue our work in the community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sajwa.
All righty. Thank you for that, Jordan. Hi, everybody. So like Jordan said, today we're going to be doing the banana crumble recipe. This is a Cooking Matters recipe, and I just want to give a shout out to Chef Lynn Fredericks with Family Cook Productions, who helped Cooking Matters come up with this recipe for today. So before we get started with anything in the kitchen, we want to go through some of the same Cooking Matters basics. First, you want to make sure that you have a clean and sanitized workspace. So clean, meaning I've removed any visible debris. Sanitized, meaning I've gotten rid of the bacteria that might be lying on the surface by using a disinfectant spray. Next, you want to make sure that you have washed your hands before you're, messing around with your ingredients, and also doing your mise en place. So today you can see I've kind of set out all the things that I need today for this recipe, just because, if it's your first time doing the recipe, it can be really handy to have things ready to go. And so you're not digging around in your cabinets. You want to make sure that you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, getting in between your fingers, around your wrist, underneath your nails, all that good stuff. You can sing the ABC song or the happy birthday song twice. Okay, so let's get started with the recipe today. First thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So I've already done that. I remember that just before we went live. Go ahead and preheat your ovens, and I'm gonna adjust my view here for you. All right. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and slice our bananas in half. We are going to be using 4 bananas today, as well as 2 cups of berries. And you can use a variety of things. Today I have some blueberries at the bottom here, some raspberries, blackberries, and I have some strawberries over there too that I'm going to cut up in just a moment. I do have well over 2 cups of fruit, but you know what? Whenever it comes to fruits and vegetables, it's totally okay to sneak in some extras.
Sajwa, are you using, I'm sorry, you may have said this already. Are you using fresh or frozen today?
Oh, yes. Today I'm using fresh fruits. Oh, actually, I'm actually using a little bit of both. Why don't I explain that? So my bananas, my strawberries, my blackberries, and raspberries are fresh, but my blueberries were frozen. So what I did before I started today's recipe and did my mise en place, I took my blueberries out of the freezer, allowed them to defrost a little bit, and then you just want to use a paper towel to get up some of that extra liquid that may come out. Great question. You could also do this, I could see, with like canned options too. You don't have to only use berries. There's lots of fruits and different options out there that you could use. Okay. So we're gonna just go ahead and peel our bananas. It's totally okay to have a brown spot or two. It's not gonna hurt us. So what I like to do is just flatten my banana like so. Then I want to practice holding my knife properly by pinching it with my index finger and thumb and wrapping my fingers around the handle so I have a lot of good control there. I've got my claw with my other hand, and I'm just cutting these bananas in half like so. Put those to the side. Now peeling the banana and perhaps cutting it in half with like a butter knife. Those are great opportunities for young youth in the kitchen to get involved in the kitchen. So definitely encourage them to come and participate with this recipe. And if you guys have any tips for other fruits that you would like to see in a banana crumble or that you think would work well, please go ahead and comment those down below. I personally think some pears or peaches could go really nice. Got the canned varieties too. That could be really good in here.
I think peaches would be phenomenal.
Yeah. So all I've done here is I've just cut up my bananas, and we're going to actually go ahead and put a little bit of oil in our pan. You need a 9-inch square baking dish. Mine is in use right now, but I have a lot of extra quantity here, so I know it'll fit just fine in here. You can use a spray to oil up your pan, or you can use a little bit of drizzled oil. I just have a regular old light canola oil. I'm going to drizzle some of that, and then I'm going to use these fingers here, and we're going to spread that around. It's another opportunity to get the kids in the kitchen right here.
I love that tip too. Without using, you don't have to use, those aerosol can sprays, which is kind of nice. Just using a liquid oil, a lot of times it can be a substitute and save you a little money as well. So
oh yeah,
use whatever oil you have at home, and olive oil or canola oil will work just fine.
Okay, so my pan is all oiled up, and I want to go ahead and add in my bananas in there on that bottom layer of the pan. So I'm just going to do it like so. If you like, you definitely have the opportunity to, if you want to mash the bananas in there a little bit, that can also be fine with this recipe. And I'm just going to kind of stagger it to the best of my ability. So the berries are definitely going to fill in any gaps that you have. So no worries about that. Break this guy up here. Okay. Just a little bit more space. All right, so just like that. Okay. I wipe my hands. They're all oily now. Okay. Great. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and work with my strawberries. If you choose to use strawberries, in the chef notes here, they recommend that you go ahead and slice them up. So we're going to slice up some strawberries today. As always, there is the opportunity to use a frozen option. Would work just fine. Again, just let that defrost, pat out some of that excess water and liquid, and move forward like that. Just cutting the tops off my strawberries.
Yeah, I really love how you can use frozen berries in this recipe as well. But right now, berries are starting to come into season, so this might be a really good opportunity to buy those strawberries that are coming on sale. And this is a really great recipe to use those up when those strawberries and berries are coming in season here in Minnesota. Awesome.
Exactly. And I'm just choosing to go through and slice like so, just to get some nice pieces like this. That's good, comfortable size for me. Now, mind you, you could definitely do like a dice if you wanted smaller strawberry pieces. It's really up to you and what kind of bite you're comfortable with having. But you have a lot of opportunity to exercise your right as the chef in the kitchen today. This recipe. So
while Sandra is chopping up those strawberries, we'll just maybe go over a little nutrition education while we have a minute. So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about sugars. So we've talked about sugar a lot in Cooking Connected. It's a really important topic because too much sugar in your diet can actually have a negative effect on your health. A lot of times we think too much sugar and tooth decay, which is true, but it can also contribute to things like obesity and type 2 diabetes. Of course, you can always check and see how much sugar is in a product by just turning it around and looking at the nutrition label. So nutrition labels do have a section for sugars. Some of the newer labels actually have a section for included sugars or added sugars. So the sugar section of the nutrition label include both natural and added sugars. So natural sugars come from natural sources like these strawberries that Sajwa are cutting up. So think fruit, milk, so lactose and fructose. And then of course there are added sugars. So those are the sugars that are added during the processing of the food. A lot of times they're added to enhance the flavor, texture, and even shelf life of that food. It's estimated that the average American eats about 15 to 17 teaspoons of added sugar each day, which is quite a bit. So a little later, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can decrease these added sugars and ways we can look out for more added sugars in our food. It looks like Sajwa is done chopping up those strawberries.
Yes, I've chopped up my strawberries here, and I'm just going to mix them in with the rest of the berries I have today. I have quite a few berries on me today. I've got raspberries today, blackberries, and then the frozen blueberries, as well as my strawberries. So I'm going to have a lot of good natural sweetness coming in, like Jordan was talking about, and she'll be telling us more about that later. So now that my berries are all kind of mixed together, what I need to do is add 1 tablespoon of whole wheat flour into my berry mixture. And we just want to coat the berries here before we put them on top of our bananas. So like that, I'm just going to give that a nice toss there. Just like that. I want to make sure it's nice and evenly coated. And then I'm going to put that on top of my bananas. All right, I see some of my raspberries are breaking apart in there, and that's fine by me. That's gonna be really good once we bake everything. So I'm gonna spread this evenly on top of my bananas. Okay, spread this.
I love how this recipe also incorporates, more whole grains. So we do have our oats, and then we also have that whole wheat flour. So that's just kind of a nice little extra, whole wheat kick that we're getting in there. So just another opportunity to use that whole wheat flour.
All right, oops, there's a strawberry stuck on there. There we go. So that looks really good to me. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and set this to the side, and we're going to grab another bowl where we're going to start working with our dry ingredients today. So in my bowl here, I've added 1 cup of old-fashioned rolled oats. I've got a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar packed. So that means when I measured it out, I did push it into the measuring cup before adding it into this bowl right here. Let's see, I've also got 4 tablespoons of whole wheat flour. So we've got a little bit more of that whole wheat flour coming in, just like Jordan was talking about earlier. And so with that, we're going to mix these together. Oh, and I also want to add my spices, but we definitely should mix these together. Then we're going to add our spices in.
Do you think that you could use maybe a quick oat if you didn't have the old-fashioned oats on hand?
Yeah, that's actually what I ended up using anyway. I always keep some oatmeal in my cabinets. I love oatmeal in the morning. And so I did have some regular old quick oats, and they work just fine with this recipe. The next thing we want to do is include our spices in here. So for this recipe, it calls for 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So I have my 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, but I've also opted to add in a little bit more flavor. So I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice in here. I've got some ginger in here. I believe this is also 1/4 teaspoon. And I've got a little bit of nutmeg in here, another 1/4 teaspoon. So I really want to add some more flavor with that. So I'm going to add that in here.
That is a great spice blend. If you're working with spices like allspice and nutmeg, you don't overdo it. Those can be a little overpowering.
Oh yeah.
But they are definitely great additions. And they'll, that ginger, I love that idea. That's an awesome idea for this recipe. I also wanted to mention, we were talking a little bit about quick oats and rolled oats, a little bit about what the difference is. So you have old-fashioned rolled oats, which tend to be a little bit thicker than the quick oats. A lot of times the quick oats, they just kind of make those thinner so then they cook faster. And then let's see, we also had, I wanted to mention as well, when you're baking, Sajwa said that the brown sugar packed. A lot of times when you're baking, if it doesn't say whether the brown sugar is packed or not, you should assume that it is packed. And the way that you know if you packed that brown sugar properly is you can kind of take it out of the measuring cup and it holds its form, just like you saw in the bowl in Sajwa's bowl earlier.
Great tip. Yeah, I'm not much of a baker, so sometimes those things can be a little confusing as I'm in the kitchen. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to add in some cold butter. And so the amount of butter that we need is 4 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter. I have that here, and so let's just go ahead and cut that up. All right, open this guy up.
A lot of times when I'm baking, I always add the salted butter and I'll just add a little bit less salt.
Yeah.
I never usually have unsalted butter on hand.
So we're just going to cut this up into some smaller pieces because we're going to be using our hands in a moment here to mix it all together in there. Again, another option for the kiddos, also perhaps allowing them to practice some knife skills with a butter knife, cutting this cutting butter with a butter knife. Love it. Because, the butter is going to be softer for them, and that can build a little bit more confidence in the kitchen. Alrighty, so we've got some nice little cubes going for us of our butter. Let's go ahead and add these pieces in there. Make sure I'm breaking it up.
Tip that Sajwa just brought up, using a butter knife to, kind of start your kids off with those knife skills. So if you have anything that your kids can cut in the kitchen, start them off with maybe like a plastic butter knife or a butter knife that's safe for them to use at home. That's a great way to start introducing maybe kids that are a little bit older to knife skills until they get up to that big chef knife that Sajwa has there.
All right, so I've just tossed it in there, but really what I want to do is get my hands in there, and this is why we've got nice clean hands, so it's totally fine. And I want to kind of crumble that or squish that butter into the mixture until we create a crumble. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and this is going to be a lot of fun for you guys. This recipe is perfect for kids. It's a lot of fun for adults too, not just you.
Awesome. Would now be a good time to finish up some nutrition education?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So we were talking a little bit about sugars earlier, both natural and added sugars. There are actually some different ways that you can detect added sugars in your food. And another way to do that is actually looking at the ingredients list on your label. So sugar has many different forms and also has many different names, unfortunately. So if you turn, the food around and look at the label, you can look at the ingredients list and you can see a whole bunch of different names for sugar. So you can see like corn sweetener, corn syrup, there's dextrose, fructose, glucose, maltose, lactose, and sucrose, really anything with an OSE at the end. There's high fructose corn syrup, honey, malt syrup, and molasses. And those are just some different names for sweeteners, sugars in different food products. So that's something else to consider looking at the food label if you're trying to cut back on added sugars. Some tips and tricks that I can just give you to cut down on added sugars are definitely cut back on sugar sweetened beverages. So think soda, energy drinks, and even juice. Juice a lot of times does have a lot of sugar in it. If you are going to consume juice, consume in moderation. For the kiddos, you can actually water the juice down a little bit. It does have a lot of sugar in it. So you could do like a half a cup of juice and a half a cup of water. Something else you can do, of course, cut back on the desserts. Or you can make a delicious dessert like we are today with a little bit of the added natural sugars, or the natural sugars, not the added sugars. You can also avoid certain sauces that have sugars. So think barbecue sauce, ketchup, and even sweet chili sauces have a lot of added sugars in them as well. Additionally, like spaghetti sauces have a lot of sugar in them. So make sure you're turning the label around and reading the label to see how much sugar is in sauces and spaghetti sauces, or you can season with spices instead. So Sajwa added all of these beautiful spices today to really flavor our food. Another thing you can do is watch out for low fat options. So a lot of times low fat options, they'll take out maybe some of that fat in the product and they'll add in sugar and sodium to try and compensate for that for the flavor. Look for fruits that are canned in juice and frozen fruits that have no sugar added. You can also watch your cereals. A lot of times cereals have a lot of added sugars. And finally, you can eat less processed foods. So a lot of processed foods have a lot of added sugars in them. So we can stick maybe around the perimeter of the grocery store a little bit more that has more of like the produce, our dairy, meats, things like that that are a little less processed. It looks like Sajwa is ready to add her crumble on top.
Oh yeah, but I can wait for you to finish there, Jordan. So much good information.
Yeah, yep, I'm done. Don't worry.
Okay. Awesome. So yes, guys, I went ahead and worked that dry ingredients with that butter really nice until it became crumbly like so. And at this point, I'm going to spread that on top of here, on top of our berries. Now, here you could definitely do something by adding some dried fruits in here if you wanted. I could see raisins, I could see almonds coming into play. I could see quite a few different things that you can add into this oat mix right here that would add a little bit more to your crumble today. But of course, if it's your first time doing the recipe, you can definitely just follow it according to the instructions, because it's always good to do that first before venturing out on your own. So I'm just using my hands here to kind of break things up a little bit more and make sure it's spread evenly. But I am going to be using my little spatula in a moment to just kind of spread things. And you really want to create a nice flat surface there. Try to spread it as evenly as possible over the top of your berries, just like so. I see a little bit. There we go. That looks good to me. All right. Just using my other hand to kind of help break things up where it needs to be. Spread that on top. I would love to get some more in this corner.
This dessert would be awesome for after dinner. So I'm just thinking of our My Plate recap that we're gonna do. We have our oats, our whole grain there, and we have a lot of fruit. A lot of times you may be missing fruits in a meal. If you wanted to get all 5 food groups, adding this in would cover your oats or your grains and then also your fruits. So if you had a meal that had dairy, our protein, as well as our vegetables, adding this dessert on the side would kind of fill in your My Plate.
At the thought of it, I think I will go ahead and opt in to add a few almonds. I have some sliced almonds here. I'm just going to sprinkle some on top. Got some chopped almonds. Excuse me, not onions. Whoa, no. Not with this recipe. And so we're going to get some good protein with that too.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm just going to pop this into the oven. Again, our oven is preheated at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You just need that in the oven for about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. You want to watch and make sure that your crumble is firm and golden in color. That's how you'll know it's going to be good and done. And with that, I am going to do the old switcheroo on you guys.
The magic of TV.
Yes, the magic of TV indeed. So this is what our recipe looks like in the end. Right here on the side, I've got a little bit of plain Greek yogurt. And, this recipe says that if you like, you can use a little bit of honey and mix that in with your plain yogurt to give it a little bit more sweetness and flavor. If you're a newbie at eating plain yogurt, that can be helpful. Otherwise, you could just serve it on the side like so. The yogurt acts as almost like a whipped cream option, or, you can add a little bit more. It's like an ice cream substitute, however you want to look at it. But yes, that is our banana crumble today.
That's beautiful. That is a great recipe.
Flavors of the banana, the berries, all of that.
Yeah, and adding those almonds on top add our protein, and then adding the yogurt on the side adds our dairy. So all we're missing is vegetables, which is crazy that we get almost all of our my plate from a dessert. Of course, in moderation, we still need our vegetables and stuff. So, but that is a beautiful recipe. Thank you, Sajwa, for demonstrating that for us today. So as always, thank you so much for watching today. Please don't forget to take our survey. Again, we have that in the live chat, and it should also be in the description box below our video. So if you have a moment after this video, please take our survey. Again, you will need a program code. This week's program code is E101148. So with that, this is this week's episode of Cooking Connected. We hope to see you all back next week, next Thursday at 2 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week.